so much for joining us today in the fight to end student hunger. This is a big issue, not only in my district, but across the country. Tomorrow, when the public health emergency officially expires, so does the expanded SNAP eligibility for college students. Unfortunately, the student hunger crisis on college campuses will remain. Nearly 1 million students are at risk of not being able to access SNAP once the public health emergency ends. That's why today I'm introducing with my good friend, Congressman Jimmy Panetta, the Enhanced Access to SNAP Act of 2023, or the EATS Act, which will permanently expand the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, to millions of college students experiencing hunger on a daily basis. And this issue is personal. When I was growing up, my siblings and I relied on free lunch in the schools. We relied on free lunch at the parks during the summertime. And this was, for our family, a lifeline, especially when my parents were working 3, 4, 5 jobs a week to make ends meet, but we always didn't have enough to eat. That's why I know that this is a big deal. And for many of those, many kids on school meals in grade school, higher education is unattainable, not only because of the skyrocketing cost of tuition, but because they can't afford to eat while going to class. Food insecurity impacts nearly 40% of students at 2-year institutions and 30% of students at 4-year institutions. And it disproportionately affects students of colors. And the EATS Act will break down barriers to higher education and ensure no student goes to bed hungry. This issue is something that people don't always talk about, but it does impact people from all walks of life. I had a government affairs VP for a major corporation come up to me and say, when I was growing up and I was in college, I helped my family. And I had to choose either to help my mom pay the rent and keep my siblings fed, or to feed myself. And she said that in order to quell the hunger pain, she would drink a lot of water when she was in class and when she was going to school, because she didn't have that extra money to buy food. So this impacts people that you wouldn't even imagine that it impacts them. So this is something that we know that it can have a profound impact on some people quit school, some people can't focus, and when we want our kids to succeed, we want them not to focus on their homework and not where they're going to get their next meal. So the EATS Act will break down barriers to higher education and ensure that no student goes to bed hungry. And while the GOP turns their back on the most vulnerable constituents, proposing drastic cuts to SNAP, we're fighting to strengthen and expand this program that keeps kids, students, veterans, seniors, and disabled individuals fed. In one of the richest countries on the face of the planet, no one should go hungry because they can't afford a meal. And I know those standing here with me join me in that fight, and I look forward to hearing their stories. Next, I want to have my co-lead on this bill, Congressman Jimmy Panetta from Northern California, who's been a long advocate on making sure that students have every opportunity to succeed, including eliminating the barriers to food. Jimmy.
Thanks. Thanks to all the press corps here for giving us this opportunity to highlight something very important. And of course, let me thank Congressman Jimmy Gomez, who has long been a fighter for people and a fighter against hunger, not just in his district in Southern California, throughout all of California and throughout this country. So I appreciate being on this bill. We tried to name it the Jimmy Bill, but we couldn't get that done. But EATS Act, it sounds much better. Look, let's make it clear. And as a daughter, as a father of 2 daughters who are about to go into college, kids in college have a lot to worry about already. Be it their grades, be it their tests, be it tuition, be it rent. And the last thing they need to deal with is hunger. Now, SNAP is a solution, but unfortunately on college campuses, it's also become an issue. Yes, students from low-income families can qualify for SNAP, but unfortunately, many are prevented from accessing SNAP due to these arbitrary and antiquated barriers, such as if you live on campus, you can't do it, such as you have to work for your food in order to get these types of benefits. And what we are finding is these types of barriers are creating food insecurity among students, and it's growing. You heard the numbers from Jimmy. I'm going to repeat them. They're affecting 39%, almost 40% of students at community colleges. They're affecting 29% of students at four-year institutions. That's why I'm so glad to stand here with my co-lead, the leader, Jimmy Gomez, to hopefully get rid of those barriers and make SNAP more accessible to more students. We did it throughout COVID. We need to do it permanently. This really is a straightforward fix to tackle hunger on campuses and ensure the success of our students and the success of our future. And so I'm proud to turn it over to those students because that's who we need to hear from. Jimmy, thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Gina Fontanino, SNAP Deputy Director at Food Research and Action Center, Frank.
Good morning, everyone. The Food Research and Action Center is really thrilled to be here today celebrating the leadership of both Representative Gomez and Representative Panetta. It is important that today we as a community are acknowledging that low-income college students are hungry, and that if we need them to succeed, we need to be able to give them the tools in order to do so. But we're standing here today on the shoulders of many individuals who have brought this issue on for many years. And I will be remiss if I don't mention the wonderful advocates from California, from the food banks, to the student associations, to Young Invisibles, who have been pushing this to get it at a national level, to allow our organization to be part of your work, even though you are leading and we are following your lead. And I hope that if you get anything out of this is that we need to listen to those voices, because low-income students, when they are young and they're graduating high school, nothing changes. Very little changes in their circumstances, except that as they go to college, they may not have access to free breakfast. They don't have access to lunch, but now they have added tuition costs. They have added costs and shelters. I am excited about this because as someone who worked with college students for many years and helping them with the SNAP application, it is incredibly burdensome. And to have to tell them that on top of that, yes, you're working and you're going to school 40 hours a week, but on top of that, go work a full-time job. Research shows that students should not be working more than 10 hours a week, but our current regulations in SNAP are requiring that they work at least 20 hours. I am excited that this bill will not be 100% the solution, but it is the first step to get there, to make SNAP accessible, because there are food pantries rising in almost every institution across the nation. And while this is a great resource, it does cause a lot of stigma for our students, and it doesn't address the homeless tents that are now camping out at some institutions of homeless students who still can't access SNAPs because of these barriers. This is great leadership, and we are so grateful to be able to stand among the organizations that are supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we're going to hear from Sergio Ricardo Aguilar, a student at UC Davis.
Hello everyone, my name is Sergio. I'm a current UC Davis student and part of the University of California Student Association, the official voice of all UC students. I'm here to voice my support for Congressman Gomez's CTAC. As a first generation American and college student, I've had many difficulties in accessing food. In my first year of Davis, I wasn't able to pay for the cost of my college. I had to work a job in the weekends to make sure I was able to pay for my tuition, my books, and my housing. But it wasn't enough to satisfy my basic needs. I would have to walk home at 12 in the morning after my shift, hungry, asking my friends if they had any snacks, any food left over so I could be able to eat on. If I wasn't lucky, I would have to go on my bed and wish for my next meal. I want everyone here to think about what it's like to constantly feel like a burden, to feel embarrassed, to get something as small as an instant cup of ramen noodles. I had to figure out this new phase of my life while having imposter syndrome, while pushing through my academics, working through an 18-hour work week. And this is so much to bear, just one of these things. But I had to think about this on top of thinking how I was going to be able to pay for my education or choose to put a meal on my table. No one should ever have to experience going to bed hungry. No one should ever have to wonder about when their next meal is going to be. But this was a reality for me for a very long time. Food should be a guaranteed right for every single person, especially students who come from underprivileged backgrounds that don't have access to higher education, as most other people do. This is why this bill is so transformative. I was not able to make the 20-hour cut. I worked 18 hours, only 2 hours away from receiving food assistance that would have saved me from so many nights of hunger. When students have their basic needs, data shows that they have better graduation rates and better academic success. The EATS Act would make a world of difference for me and for so many other students. By eliminating the 20-hour requirement, I would have been able to buy groceries and not wonder how I was going to be able to support myself through my limited income. How can we expect students to work in academics for more than 40 plus hours to also get a job at minimum 20 hours a week? At UC Davis, almost 1 in 2 students face food insecurity with the first-generation college students like me. I want to thank Congressman Gomez and Panetta for putting the most vulnerable students in their legislation. Students who have backgrounds like me, students who look like me, and first-generation students who have dreams, aspirations, and hopes to one day graduate and be successful and provide for our families. I'm proud that the UC Student Association is supporting this bill, and I urge Congress to pass it. It would make a world of difference for countless students like me across the country.
Thank you, Sergio. Next, we'll have to hear from Sandra Taylor with Young Invincibles.
Hello, can everybody hear me okay? Awesome. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sandra D. Taylor, and I'm the Director of Higher Education and Workforce Policy at Young Invincibles. And to be here today is a full circle moment. During my sophomore year of college, I struggled to pay my rent, to support my family, and to put food on my own table. I was a first-generation college student and a beneficiary of welfare benefits. I was not familiar with or aware of any food assistance programs on campus or within my state that could support me by ensuring I would at least eat a meal every day. The times got to be so rough that I eventually put my pride aside to go downtown, as my mother would say, to apply for SNAP or food stamps, as we called it in my community. In full transparency, I did not want to go downtown because there was a stigma for being a beneficiary of welfare benefits in my community. I felt I had moved beyond needing that assistance until I did not have that option. Removing barriers to SNAP is critical for college students. Eliminating student disqualifications without adding additional work requirements to be eligible for SNAP benefits is necessary for the well-being of students. These benefits provide essential assistance in helping young people afford food and staying focused on other priorities, as other speakers have elaborated. For far too long, we've heard the narratives that college students survive on ramen noodles, as we call it, while putting themselves through school. It is not a badge of honor to go hungry. Rather, it's imperative to student success and health to have stable and secure access to food. The Enhanced Access to SNAP Act of 2023 is a necessary stepping stone to providing basic needs and food security for students and young adults nationwide. Young Invincibles is dedicated to the success of young adults, as we already shown in California. And that starts with ensuring their basic needs are met. I want to thank the congressmen today for championing legislation and ensuring no student goes hungry while pursuing their college education. And thank you all for being here to support this legislation as well.
Thank you so much. And I don't know about you, Jimmy, but when I listen to some of the young folks and some of the students, it reminds me of just some of our days of going to college and trying to figure out where you're.
I wasn't that articulate.
No,
no way.
I wasn't that great of a student. And one of the things I remember is like, yeah, you did what you had to do. I wrote a jockey farm. I got jockey farm and get a 99-cent jumbo jack. That shows how long ago it was, by the way. But we know that food costs across the country are rising, right? You go to any grocery store, you can see it in the prices. You go to the McDonald's, you've got a dollar menu, right? So you can't go for those cheap, inexpensive meals. And at the same time, I should have had 2 jumbo jacks for lunch, and I'll be getting it later. So students, we should make it easier, because this is that generation that's going to help our country move forward. At the same time, we always say, hey, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, live the American dream. But those bootstraps also require a little bit of help. And I believe that they do that by going to college, by giving it their all, making sure that they're focused, getting good grades, and then hopefully fulfilling their life's ambition. And I still believe that college can transform a person's life. But we got to get rid of those barriers that are often there. Everything from higher tuition costs, as well as lack of access to food and just other barriers in general. Housing is a bigger one. So I just want to thank everybody for being here. My colleague Jimmy Panetta for being the co-leader of this bill, and also, of course, the great student advocates. Give yourselves a round of applause. And with that, we'll see if anybody has any questions.
There's a companion bill in the Senate, is that correct?
Yes. Last time, I can't remember who's carrying it this time, but it is a companion bill in the Senate. We'll see what they can do on that side. I recognize the barriers we have in the minority in the House of Representatives, especially when we're facing a GOP majority that wants to cut the federal budget across the board. But this is especially SNAP, and then apply more and more restrictions to receiving this kind of assistance. But there's already so many checks and so many requirements that it prevents. I think that it really does reduce the chances of any kind of fraud. That's what they always say, that people are going to scam the system. But I think it's so strong that even George Santos couldn't apply for SNAP.
So I assume the main issue here is the 20-hour work requirement for ABODs. How do you? I assume you want to address this in the Farm Bill. I'm wondering how you do that when the majority is pushing to actually expand up to 55.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the challenge. What we're trying to do is eliminate that 20 hours a week work requirement, and say that going to college is the requirement that students should focus on, part-time or more, so that is a requirement. And I know the challenge in that ag committee, but we're working with Democrats on the committee to try to see if we can get it in there. It's not done yet, so we're going to give it our all.
Yeah, I mean, you of all people understand. You of all people understand the fights that we're going to have coming up here in the 2020 legislative bill. Obviously, SNAP is going to be a major point of contention, and this is going to be part of it. But that's why we're here today. We're here today to make sure that we lay that foundation. We tell these types of stories. People hear these types of stories. That 20-hour work week is really untenable for many students, especially students that deal with the pressures that you've heard about today. And so we want to make sure that story is heard, not just by us. We want to make sure that story is heard by Republican members in these offices behind us. And I think we're doing a good job here today, but we got more work to do. We understand that. We'll continue to carry that fight, not just in the House, but in the Senate as well.
And would it just be an exception for students, the 20-hour rule?
Yeah, that rule just applies to students either at two-year community college or three-year institution. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's the one I on that. Yeah.
You got the mic. No, I think he'll do it. I'm not gonna touch his phone. Huh?
So that's the issue. No, they.
I think that we should just let James do his thing.
It cracks me up. Yeah.